Hey there gamers, DreamcastGuy here. Today we're talking about Ubisoft because the last 48 hours has basically been the death of the company. They've not only canceled a bunch of games, shut down a bunch of studios, their stock price has now completely imploded. They've lost literally billions of dollars in just literally the last 24 hours. But even today, the employees are fighting back. People are mass quitting. We're talking all the people that actually make their games. And I really want to try and get through your head how crazy this is, how big Ubisoft really is even in the current sense, where they're so far from their heyday of making actually good games. But Ubisoft is still a truly massive, massive company with thousands of employees because they are making stuff like Splinter Cell and For Honor and all the Tom Clancy games and The Division and, of course, Assassin's Creed and Watch Dogs and everything. They are so dead, and it's truly just completely their own fault. But let's break it down. Hi, hope you're having a great day. If you could please give this video a like and subscribe if you haven't already. I'm currently reporting from the Texas snowstorm. I'm recording this on Friday. There is talks that we may lose a bunch of power. Power grids here are very bad in Dallas especially. So if I don't make any videos this weekend, hopefully I'm bundled up and extra warm, but I love you very much. So let me just start with this quick recap, which is that here we saw on January 21st, so 48 hours ago, they announced they were canceling 6 games and delaying 7 others. Now, we actually know what these games are now, for the most part. We know that some of these are secret projects. They also said we're about to be firing pretty much all of our staff on February 12th, but we now know that some of these games are stuff like Prince of Persia, which apparently was about to come out. Prince of Persia was supposed to come out on January 16th. The developers of this had been leaking that the game was fully playable from start to finish. The people that even made it said, yeah, it could have used more polish, but we thought it would get delayed. We never thought that Ubisoft would roll in and cancel a completed game. The people that were making it were also saying that we're not mad at Ubisoft. We do hope it does come out. We hope that somebody brings back Prince of Persia. It does seem like the Prince of Persia remake developers genuinely cared about the project. There was a lot of very passionate people at Ubisoft that are kind of stuck at one of the worst companies. But one of the other projects that we now know was delayed was the Black Flag Remake. There have been a ton of leaks literally all of last year. Stuff like the Black Flag soundtrack, some URLs, some stuff like copyrighted stuff. This game was done. Again, Black Flag Remake was supposed to come out on March 19th as a digital-only release, and now it's probably going to be released sometime next year. Again, just wild that they're doing such massive, massive delays. Now, normally, I get annoyed that a lot of times when there's these mass layoffs, when there's studio closures, stock price sometimes goes up. Investors, they have this stupid catchphrase, invest when there's blood in the streets. The worse the news is, the more you have a chance to make a profit. Buy super low, sell super high, right? Well, in this case, it has been a very bad 24 hours. The price has actually gone down 40% just this morning, 95% stock decrease in the last 5 years. Now, to you and me, this doesn't really sort of equate to game failures, right? I mean, typically, this doesn't necessarily mean that all their games are bad. It does mean that just in general, they are in a spot where the people that really make the games, unfortunately, are these investors. If the investors aren't buying in, that means there's not that raw capital to hire more devs, to open more studios, to do more experimental stuff. Essentially, the less investors you have, the safer and more boring your game's got to be. But what's extra wild to think about, I totally forgot about this until I saw this tweet. Tencent, some people think that Tencent's the most evil, terrible boogeyman in the world. I'm kind of on that camp. I'll be honest, a lot of what Tencent does seems to be very negative for the gaming industry. Tencent invested 1.5 billion euro into Ubisoft, which I don't know exactly what is that? That's they've already lost 600 million euro. I think that's around $1 billion American. So they basically lost $500 million literally in one day. Tencent invested $1 billion, and that's already double their entire market cap of Ubisoft at the moment. To say that the company value is imploding is an understatement. This is in one day. $500 million lost in one day. And you know what? I'm going to start by defending them for just a second before we start to talk about all the leaks, all the blowback, all the anger internally. I do think that Ubisoft has made, even recently, some good games. I really like that Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown. They did like a cool rogue-like Prince of Persia as well that I thought was cool. The Rogue Prince of Persia. I feel like they are still trying to do stuff here and there. Also, you know what? I have a lot of problems with Assassin's Creed Shadows, but I did play it 100%. I did every side quest. I did everything. That game had a lot of pacing issues, but it was beautiful and it was dang fun. I feel like there was a good game at the center of Shadows that they just terribly, terribly messed up. And I always think about the fact that, how terrible freaking Star Wars Outlaws was at launch. Now they've completely fixed it. That game's already bombed. I played the most busted version of Outlaws, unfortunately, because I played it at launch. Apparently now the gameplay is great. I feel like my problem with Ubisoft is that they're so obsessed with the numbers, they're forgetting to make the games good. When they announced all these delays, all these pushbacks, they said, oh, our new big promise, our new big goal is purely games as a service. Instead of making cool passion projects, instead of making cool games that actually feel, as daring and original as Watch Dogs used to be, as Assassin's Creed used to be, we're going all in on games as a service slop. No originality, just profitability and boring safeness forever. So the fact that I'm glad that internally their own developers are straight up just massive quit. They're just walking out by the hundreds, if not by the thousands. So Tom Henderson does a lot of good reporting with leaks, especially. He's been talking to the people inside a lot of these studios. A lot of them are actually even making public statements on LinkedIn following the announcement of Ubisoft's restructuring. God, I hate that word. In a third round of cost-cutting measures, again, I hate this corpo speak, Ubisoft's internal communication channels are full of employees shaming upper management and asking for a change. It's quite something seeing people very openly criticizing a company they work for to such an extent, but after years of struggle, it's not surprising. Now, this is incredibly rare. I do have a chance to talk in person and online and stuff to a lot of people that work at different studios, and a lot of times, people say, don't bite the hand that feeds you, right? If somebody's paying your bills, especially if you're living in a really expensive part of the world, you're living in like some really cool area, they're paying for your apartment, you're living that good life, you're not going to be that loud. So it's interesting that people are at a point where they're just saying, look, man, this is not worth the Ubisoft's paycheck. If I know that I'm always this close to the chopping block, if the game that I'm pouring my love into, my time into, my sleepless nights into, if there's a chance that it's going to get canned for a tax write-off, why am I even pouring myself into games if you're just treating it as digits on a ledger? Some employees tell me that this is their final nail in the coffin for them and that they're seeking employment elsewhere. Others have decided to fast track their already existing contingency plans in case they're laid off. More have taken to LinkedIn to publicly announce they're now looking for work. This is something that has been bubbling up a lot in the gaming industry, especially for the last couple of years, which is that you have to constantly be building up a backup portfolio. Since stuff gets canceled, a lot of times when games get canned, you're not allowed to talk about it. This is very well known. A lot of developers talk about it. Because you signed an NDA saying, I won't talk about this until launch, if your game never launches, you can't claim credit. You can't show the art. You can't discuss it. You can't even put it on a job application. There have been multiple people I've heard about where they literally had 3 or 4 canceled games in a row. And so it looks like they pretty much have 10 years of semi-unemployment where it's like, okay, we worked at this studio for 3 years, this studio for 3 years, this studio for 3 years. How many launches have you done? And you say 0 because of the corpos. This is wild to me, but some people are taking this as a good thing. The reason why is that this pushback is very needed. Ubisoft needs those people banging the pots and pans, screaming, this is not just a company, it is art. And a lot of people are bringing up Expedition 33 as an indictment that developers have never been the issue. In case you don't know it, Expedition 33 was made purely by ex-Ubisoft developers. And in fact, they admitted that they pretty much dreamed up the idea that a lot of the bare bones that became now the most awarded game of all time, literally, they dreamed this up while working boring mission side quest work at Ubisoft. Those 30 people left, formed their own studio, and made the most highly awarded game of all time. So this isn't anything that like Ubisoft on its own is bad. It's that the people at Ubisoft are stuck by the shackles of a company that truly does not care. What a mess Ubisoft has become. Shame their IPs are being held back by terrible upper management. And think about that. This is such a great thing here, right? Might and Magic, Prince of Persia, Rayman, Splinter Cell, Assassin's Creed. There's just so much out there that's actually great. Far Cry. So much greatness out there. And at this point, it's just sitting on hard drives to be somebody's basic stock portfolio bump. How do you feel about Ubisoft in 2026? Do you even think they're going to survive? I'm still very much on the bandwagon that this is just an attempt to be bought. They're trying to downscale as much as possible so somebody comes in and saves them with a golden paycheck. Tell me your thoughts in the comments down below. And if you could, please give this video a like, subscribe if you haven't already, and please keep dreaming. God, it is already cold as hell. There's like freezing rain outside. Let me tell you, freezing rain in Texas, we're not built for this, buddy. We are not built for this.
Thanks so much for watching that video. If you want to see something else, you can always click this link to see what I put up last, or, subscribe and see what's coming up next. Also, I promise that whatever I do, it'll try not to suck.